I was in those 10 hours. If I have not convinced you now, in spite of all of the efforts over all of these years to stop critical information about the enemy from being relayed on a grassroots level, if I have not convinced you by now, I will never convince you. After I left here in the last program, I listened to some of the commentary in regards to the 10 hours worth of information that I had presented here and in other places that was accessible to the people. The information, the best I can tell in lieu of any challenge to repudiate it, is beyond reproach. One's personal feelings about how they had to swallow or accept or listen to the things that I say in carrying those facts have found that it is not the convincing of the information that will make us move. The facts are irrefutable. But the enemy is so wise that it becomes the personality of the bearer of the information that stops the people from beating the enemy that kicks them all day and all night. I listened to some of the laughter and I felt so bad for the victims, because the leadership I know does what it must do so that it can contain and control the people from beating the specific honkies that got the money, the 0.1% of the population that controls 72% of the wealth. That 0.1% pays a lot of money to be protected, and it protects itself in some very subtle, unusual, and almost happenstantial ways. That happenstantial disengagement or disrespect of the knowledge is what our community has suffered from. If you watch Garvey, I stand here and talk to you 5 hours about Cecil Rhodes. Pick up Philosophy and Opinion, and there's Garvey on Cecil Rhodes. But you don't know Garvey for fighting Cecil Rhodes, because the leadership had to assure that he was not the subject. It's Du Bois versus Garvey. When it came down to Malcolm X, and Malcolm had kicked to the point of wanting to get at the jugular vein of the hunky, the last speech. It's not Elijah Muhammad. It's the international white power structure that's headquartered in New York, Paris, England, etc. And they were imperial, colonial remnants, and they continue. And he said it, but the last speech was stricken from the record by Spike Lee as incoherent. And the result was, it was Malcolm versus Elijah. Every time the engagement comes, here is Coakley versus Amos Wilson. It's not Coakley versus the honky, because Coakley gonna kill the honky. And Coakley doesn't want to have to beat or abuse his own people for the privilege to kill the honky, because the honky gone. Nothing, no ridicule, no misstatements without documentation, no petty little frivolous little laughter that I heard on those tapes was the sickest thing I ever heard from a people with no force. You sit up and look at an election, and each and every time, I don't care if it's Dinkins, Good, Brad, I don't care who it is, what they win, I don't care if it's the African group, the religious group, we have failed somehow to stop the honky. And all I ever want in life is the privilege to fuck him up. That's all I want. Now, if you're gonna get in my way and I'm gonna fuck the honky up, I might end up having to fight with you on the way for the right to beat the honky. But I don't want to beat you, but I might if I have to. And I will accept the abuse and the disrespect of me and the information for the right to fulfill the mission. I am beyond the sensitivity of your opinions. It will not change the honky. He is advancing without hesitation. Look at the honky. It's the honky right here in the neighborhood. I was just in Boston last night, and New York Times bought the Boston Globe, so it's the same honky. Colonialism is back and not a moment too soon. Anybody know anything about this article? Y'all read under this? Yeah, it was in the Times, it sure was, but it said that honky getting ready to take Africa. But ain't we got nobody on the shift called Africa? Ain't nobody on shift called Africa, point Africa. We got religious point, political point, African point. But no, it's Coakley versus the brother. While the honky advances. Honky say, nigga so confused I can tell him in his face I'm gonna take his ass. Because he got people in place to assure that the analogy remains brother versus the brother. I know the strategy. I go all over this city, just the faces and the names who bear it change. If I had to pressure your ass tomorrow, the spy network in our community is so easily to find and to flush out, we could beat you and burn you in 30 seconds flat and prove you are who you are. We have people in some of these places that type out your vouchers. This is deep penetration. I want to tell you the game we playing with the honky ain't no joking shit. A lot of people have died for the right to play the game. I don't know what you in it for. Maybe this is what you do after work, on the weekend. Go home and read the books. But I don't know. I have fought and lost for the right to fight the honky all day long. I do and fit just as I see. I have fought and earned the right. Lost 4 or 5 jobs, lost family, lost respect. I've been disrespected by some of the best of them. That's why I don't depend on them to do the things some of you think they're supposed to do. They're not coming. The voucher's bigger than you ever think. You will greatly, years from now, underestimate who all was in on the big thing. Damn near they're all on it. Or they've decided for the protection of themselves. Security. Security that in actuality they cannot even guarantee. You can't say, if I don't fuck the honky, I'm gonna live a little longer, because you could get hit by a car, struck by a fishbone. It doesn't matter. You are in no control of your destiny, so quit fucking around being afraid. What are you afraid of? You have no guarantee on the life you live, so why not let loose a little? Just a little. If the honky can say this, no honky suffered for this. You know what the honky saying? We are witnessing today the revival of colonialism in a new form. It's a trend that should be encouraged. Fuck. Do you all remember colonialism? Y'all happen to remember this shit? That's what made the different complexions in our skin color. They fucked us. They took the land and set up an illegal enterprise. And now they got this shit so set up, they're fighting reverse discrimination. Man, I just don't understand it. So I ain't gonna spend the 5 hours laying no more of the proof, because the proof is solid. I'm gonna share with you some deeper penetrations, some personal things we've done to give you a little idea about how deep we end up on the honky. And the facts are solid. The people we're after, the people that 15 years ago, somehow some strange little blurry information put me on, the people I fingered all that time ago turned out to be just the honkies that we was after. But if I was to share with you the times I've been cut off the radio, the times I've been denied. I was just in Boston. The black paper ran that I was speaking, called me a speaker from D.C. They would not even print my name because the owner of the paper is in the boule. I mean, you know, it does not mean that the information is wrong. It's just that the people who have to live and abide by the rules of the prosperity and opportunity that they chose really did it at the expense of the rest of us. And we've just never set up a retaliatory mechanism to get it straight. They didn't fuck around and pull Mandela out of jail until they burned the collaborators. No honkies got beat. They did not kill honkies and make them go get Mandela. They killed the buffer to the honky. The pressure on the buffer to the hunky. Do you know that I'm banned on radio in Washington, D.C. in an all-black owned station? I'm banned. Why am I banned? Because the motherfuckers in the boule called down there and told them take his ass off. So now, instead of getting 1,000 people out of the election, I have to work 2 weeks to get 500. Not because the information is less, but because I'm going to be denied the opportunity. Ain't nobody ever stepped up and said, well, let me tell you about this part of what you said. It's just, we're not going to have that. I used to be banned on the radio in Chicago. I remember walking on the street fighting for black women who had been injected with a drug called Dilantin. 278 women, 4 of them died, 2 of the kids died, and I was banned on the black radio in the town for the people I was standing up defending. We even won the case. The ladies got $1.4 million, but brother couldn't even go on his own radio. People had to go on and replace me, and they couldn't even mention my name. And somehow, in spite of all of that, someone has to find the desire to keep going in spite of the agents in place. It's the understanding of knowing that they better get their ass out there. They better dehumanize this operation. They better call this brother the creator of conspiracies. They better. Because if they don't, brother's gonna kick that honky ass and I'm gonna beat them for being with them. It's gonna happen. Everybody hedges their bet. I'm gonna work with the honky but be the African thing. That's hedging a bet. You are what is holding us back. I don't want you to misconceive this. Whites do what they're supposed to do. We do contradictory things. We just do strange things. It's costing people their lives too. I wanted to have a lecture at Howard on Columbus Day, but I couldn't because the school was closed. Now at Howard, they don't want Brother Copley to give lectures there no more. Says, I don't know what, I only had 2 in the last year, but had a couple thousand people at them say something. Some they say you don't want Copley to have no more lectures around at the rooms that were made available for the people in the community. The all-black university. Just left Howard Law School, standing at the door, still trying to keep Brother Copley out, 2nd year in a row. Just got canceled from Grambling University. President said, I will not procure a check for Copley to come to speak to the students. The black people, my own people. Never has anyone ever stood up with a document and said, brother, can I change your mind with the evidence? They said, brother, can I shorten your opportunity and lessen a person's chance to hear it? So, in spite of that, we'll share a few reflections about the depth of the hunky, and you tell me if you think he afraid of whatever he think we doing. You'll get a good impression of how he think when his moment is gonna come. And when his moment comes and the shit break out, all the other stuff we wish we had prepared for gonna bypass us. The gig will be up. Unless some of us, it won't have to be all of us, in spite of a few, will go forward and do the things that have to be necessary by constantly penetrating and reevaluating and focusing in on the core of the honkies, the core of negativity, the small little group of those that have to be dealt on to make something significant happen.